Chapter 41, High School. Start. September 1st, the first day of school. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan got up early, ate breakfast, and then set out together to register at school. There was no need for parents to accompany them, so just the two of them went together. After all, they were almost 16 years old and had enough independence to avoid bothering their parents if they could manage on their own. Of course, the main reason was that the high school division of Shanghai High School was very close to home, only a few hundred meters away. It was a matter of a few minutes' walk. Ziai Chen, with the school so close, our bicycle is going to be of no use. What a pity. Wearing a light blue dress that showed off her fair and straight calves, Shen Qinghan walked side by side with Lin Zikin on the street and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable with the situation, expressing her regret with a hint of disappointment. Lin Zikin, it's okay, we can still ride on weekends. There's nothing to regret. Then on weekends we should ride our bikes out for fun. I'll take you, my legs are really strong now, no problem carrying you. Shen Qinghan said this, her clear eyes gazing at Lin Zikin. Lin Zikin smiled and said, okay, then I'll look forward to your cycling skills a bit. The two continued their walk and chat. When they were about to reach the intersection ahead, Shen Qinghan pointed to a barber shop across the street, somewhat uncertainly saying, Ziai Chen, look at that barber shop across the street. Isn't that Zhang Kai inside? Zhang Kai? The very energetic boy from the martial arts team back then? Lin Zikin followed Shen Qinghan's direction and indeed saw Zhang Kai from the old martial arts team. However, the present Zhang Kai was no longer the sunny buzz-cut boy from the past, but had transformed into a non-mainstream guy with an earring in his left ear, his right eye covered by slanted bangs, his hair dyed in a riot of colors. In front of the barber shop, there was also a ghost fire motorcycle parked, probably his. Failed academic subjects back then, didn't get into high school, and then became a non-mainstream ghost fire youth. Thinking of this, Lin Zikin couldn't help but feel nostalgic and reflective. Nevertheless, he didn't pay too much attention to it and quickly continued towards the school with Shen Qinghan. Shanghai High School's High School Division. The Freshman Welcoming Hall. The so-called Welcoming Hall was actually just a spacious corridor under a certain academic building. There, each new student's homeroom teacher had their own designated desk and chairs, sitting there waiting for their class's new students to report. At the same time, there were quite a few upperclassmen volunteering to welcome the newcomers, making the scene quite lively. Lin Zikin looked around and soon found the welcoming spot for his class Senior 1 Class 1, immediately walking over with Shen Qinghan. Hello, teacher, we're 2 new students here to register. You're here so early. At the Senior 1 Class 1 welcoming spot, the burly man sitting there responded casually as he finished replying to a message on WeChat on his phone. Only then did he put down his phone and look up at the newcomers. When he saw the outstanding looks of Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, he was stunned. Afterward, while taking out the registration form for them to check their names off, he couldn't help but ask curiously. You two are so handsome and beautiful. Are you siblings? Not siblings. We've grown up together since childhood. Lin Zikin picked up the pen on the desk, ticked off his name on the list, and also ticked Shen Qinghan's name below it. The burly man glanced at the spot he checked off, his eyes widening instantly, then quickly beaming with a smile he said, So it's Ziai Chen, I've always heard of your name, and today I finally get to meet you in person. Lin Zikin was the most dazzling student in Shanghai High School's junior division, and many teachers from the high school division had heard of him, though very few had seen him in person. May I know how to address you, teacher? Lin Zikin asked politely. The burly man smiled heartily and said, My surname is Han, just call me Old Han. Lin Zikin smiled and said, So it's Teacher Han. Hello, Teacher Han. Hello, Teacher Han. Shen Qinghan also followed suit, but her voice sounded weak, giving off a somewhat introverted impression. Haha, good, good. Han Yuanfeng smiled heartily, looking very approachable. After speaking, he shouted to a volunteer not far away, "Hisu, could you please show them around the school and introduce its various places to them?" "No need, Teacher Han, we can just wander around by ourselves," they said. Leaving just that line behind, Lin Zikan led Shen Qinghan away from the corridor. It took them about 10 minutes to walk around the school. Then they discovered that the high school section of Shanghai High School was essentially an enlarged version of the middle school section. Whether it was the garden style or the architectural style, everything was exactly the same. After looking around and finding nothing of interest, they headed to their classroom. The third teaching building. Class 1 of the first year. When Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan entered, the classroom was empty. They had arrived too early, they'd come to report in right after breakfast, and most of their classmates probably hadn't even gotten out of bed yet, let alone come to the classroom. After all, today was the full day for registration, so everybody could totally sleep in at home and report in the afternoon after eating. "Xiao Chen, there are pictures of the teachers for our class on the back wall, they look like they've just been put up, let's go take a look," Shen Qinghan said as she ran to the back of the classroom, curiously examining the photos hanging on the wall. Lin Zikan also walked over and saw that under each teacher's photo was their respective introduction, figuring that these were probably put up to help newcomers quickly familiarize themselves with the teachers. It had to be said that the school was really considerate in this regard, and deserved extra points for that. There were 4 pictures in total, all of male teachers, each corresponding to one of the 4 main subjects in their high school curriculum. The first picture, martial arts teacher, also the homeroom teacher, named Han Yuanfeng. The second picture, wilderness survival teacher, named Cheng Bei. The third picture, genetic fusion teacher, named Lu Diran. The fourth picture, mechanical modification teacher, named Cai Yuanfei. Apart from the basic information about the teachers, there was also an introduction to the 4 main subjects beneath the photos. Martial arts, mainly to train the body and learn martial arts skills, practice-oriented. Wilderness survival, mainly to learn various survival skills, such as climbing, fire making with wood friction, and how to find water sources, etc., practice-oriented. Genetic fusion, mainly to learn about the technology of genetic fusion, as well as recognizing various exotic beasts, understanding the attributes and habits of known exotic beasts, mainly taught from textbooks, theory-oriented. Mechanical modification, mainly to learn about the technology of mechanical modification, recognizing various materials and alloy equipment, also taught from textbooks, theory-oriented. Xiao Chen, there are so few subjects in high school, just 4, way fewer than middle school, Shen Qinghan said after reading the introductions under the pictures, feeling a bit elated. Lin Zikan threw cold water on her excitement, "Don't be happy too soon, the fewer the number of courses, the harder they are. And these are just the main courses, we still have electives to study." "No problem, the electives are just some hobby and culture classes, they won't be difficult for me at all," Shen Qinghan confidently asserted. After all, as a little academic overachiever who ranked in the top 100 in the district for cultural subjects, she truly had the reason to be a bit proud at the moment. Lin Zikan just smiled and didn't speak, he was more than happy to see Shen Qinghan proud. For him, who had always been brilliant from a young age, he was not afraid of Shen Qinghan being proud, but rather of her feeling inferior. Because pride at least meant that Shen Qinghan was happy, whereas the opposite, inferiority, meant that she was very unhappy and could become depressed at any time. He didn't want her to lack confidence and become introverted because he was too dazzling. P.S. Begging for a bowl, asking for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 42, 42. Social Animal. Xiao Chen, there's a lot of dust on the floor, and since we have nothing else to do right now, why don't we sweep the classroom floor? After the two had finished looking at the photos on the wall and were about to leave the classroom, one of them, Shen Qinghan, noticed a lot of dust on the floor and, her compulsions getting the better of her, suggested cleaning it up. Linziken had no objections. Thus, the two quickly found a broom and silently started sweeping the floor in the classroom. Not long after they had started, two girls walked in from outside. One of the girls, with her hair tied into a bun, hesitated upon seeing people sweeping the floor, then timidly asked, Are you guys new students too?" Linziken stopped his sweeping upon hearing the voice and looked up at the two at the doorway, saying, "Yes, we're new as well, only arrived not long ago, saw some dust on the floor, and decided to give it a sweep." "What? It's actually Linziken." My god! The moment they saw Linziken's strikingly handsome face, the two girls instantly became excited and thrilled. Especially the bun-haired girl, whose entire face turned red hot, nervously said, "Then Linziken, I'm a fan of yours." "A fan?" "Yes, as in, I've been to every regional competition you participated in during middle school, I think you're amazing, so I became a fan," the bun-haired girl explained shyly. "Liar, dishonest, you're clearly just a fan because he's handsome." The short-haired girl beside her was internally rolling her eyes at the bun-haired girl's words. Afterwards, she looked at Linziken. Her cheeks tinged with a blush, and said in an embarrassed voice, "Linziken, I'm a fan too. Both of us attended Shanghai No. 1 middle school. We chose this school because we wanted to go to the same one as you, thinking that you would surely move up to the high school division here, so we specifically applied to Shanghai High School." That statement was indeed true. The two of them were little fans of Linziken, deliberately applying to Shanghai High School to attend the same school as their idol, even hoping to be in the same class. Linziken felt flattered to hear this, never expecting that his own group of little fans had even spread to other schools. However, it seemed his good fortune with admirers was a bit excessive. This wasn't a good thing. Sooner or later, his desk drawer was bound to be stuffed with love letters, which would add a whole set of unnecessary troubles. While the three of them were chatting, Shen Qinghan, standing to the side all this time, kept on sweeping the floor silently, like an invisible person with zero presence. Aside from a period of liveliness in early elementary school, she had always been somewhat introverted and rarely initiated conversations with others. She only became more talkative in front of Linziken. After all, they had grown up together and were very familiar with one another, making it a lot more comfortable to interact. "The classroom floor does have a lot of dust, and since the two of us also have nothing else to do, let's join you in cleaning the classroom," the bun-haired girl said and headed to a corner of the room, picked up a broom, and started sweeping. Seeing this, the short-haired girl also began to sweep. With the addition of these two girls, the classroom floor was quickly cleaned. It was at that moment that Linziken saw 3 pieces of text information floating in the void. Achievement: collaboratively completing tasks 1000 times under the premise of cooperation. Reward: earn the biometric attribute social animal. Cumulative completion of tasks, 1/1000. After reading the content, Linziken felt a wave of excitement. Unexpectedly, his 5th achievement had suddenly appeared. What a pleasant surprise! He had no idea what effect the social animal attribute would have. Really looking forward to it. At that time, the homeroom teacher Han Yuanfeng was passing through the hallway outside the classroom, on his way to the restroom in front. Seeing some students cleaning the classroom, he immediately smiled and walked in, saying, "You guys have swept the whole classroom? Not bad, it's very clean, well done." Upon hearing this, the 3 girls immediately felt delighted. They had made a good impression on the homeroom teacher at the start of the school year, which was a big win. The floor sweeping had truly paid off. Unlike them, Linziken felt utterly unmoved. Having been praised too much since he was young, he had become immune to it. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was time to eat. Linziken saw that it was about time and went home to have a meal with Shen Qinghan. After eating, he rested at home for a while before quickly leaving again. Without calling Shen King Han, he went out alone. The Phantom Squid album had been opened, and now it was time to open another exotic beasts album. It was time to go to the mall to see what kind of exotic beast meat was suitable for consumption. Riding his bike, he arrived at the mall like a gust of wind. Lin Zikin parked his bike and headed straight to the top floor to see if there was any exotic beast meat being sold at a reasonable price. After looking around, he set his sights on the violent great eagle meat. The ferocious great eagle, a beast slightly more advanced than the phantom squid, was still primarily used for consumption. Its biometric characteristic was exceptional eyesight. The eyesight of an ordinary eagle was usually 8 times that of a human, while the vision of the ferocious great eagle could reach 30 times that, which was extremely powerful. Moreover, its ability to capture its field of view was incredibly strong. It could even precisely catch exotic rabbits that nearly turned into afterimages. With the previous summer vacation experience of opening the Phantom Squid album, Lin Zikin estimated that after opening the Ferocious Great Eagles album, he would most likely acquire a biometric attribute related to eyesight. Eyesight was an extremely important biometric attribute. If it was good enough, it could significantly increase a person's combat effectiveness. Take martial arts competitions, for example. Those with good eyesight could more easily capture their opponent's movements, defend better against attacks from the opponent, and attack the opponent more effectively. All things considered, the album of the Ferocious Great Eagle was undoubtedly worth opening. Well, the main reason was that the violent Great Eagle meat was cheap, costing only 1998 yuan per pound. This cheap was in comparison to the prices of other exotic beast meat. After all, in this entire floor, aside from the phantom squid meat that cost only 998 yuan per pound, there was no other exotic beast meat cheaper than the violent great eagle meat. The third cheapest exotic beast meat cost 5,888 yuan per pound. The price gap was quite exaggerated. If it was like the phantom squid meat, where consuming 1 pound could increase the album's progress by 1%, then the total cost needed to open the album would come to about 900,000 yuan. 900,000 yuan. Round it up and it's almost a millionaire. Can't afford, can't afford. After deciding to buy the violent great eagle meat, Lin Zikin quickly found the landlord and asked him to help purchase a pound of the violent great eagle meat. Soon, he had the meat in hand. His savings evaporated by 1998 yuan. Lin Zikin didn't care about the money and turned to find a secluded place to start consuming the violent great eagle meat. You have consumed a trace of the ferocious great eagle's life essence. Ferocious Great Eagle album, 1%. Just as he expected, consuming 1 pound of meat could improve the album opening progress by 1%. Calculating this, it would cost about 200,000 yuan to open the Ferocious Great Eagles album. 200,000 yuan. It looks like I have to work even harder in high school to save enough money by participating in competitions, with the goal of lighting up the Ferocious Great Eagles album before sophomore year, he thought to himself. Lin Zikin was confident in his heart, silently planning to brighten the Ferocious Great Eagles album before his second year of high school, adding another biometric attribute to himself. Although the cost needed to open the Ferocious Great Eagles album was high, twice that of the Phantom Squid's album, correspondingly. The prize money for high school level martial arts competitions was much higher than for middle school level competitions. Chapter 43, 43. Competitive Top Students. The next morning, September 2nd. Inside classroom 1 of the first year high school students. 4 main subject teachers stood on the platform, taking turns introducing themselves to the 40 new students below. The freshmen were all very quiet, listening attentively the whole time. It wasn't because they were particularly meek by nature, but rather because these students were still not very familiar with each other and interacted somewhat cautiously, unsure of what to talk about. All right, students, the 4 of us on the stage have finished our introductions, and now it's your turn to come up and introduce yourselves so everyone can get to know each other, the homeroom teacher said, looking towards the girl sitting in the front row on the left with a smile, let's start with this young lady, and then we'll go row by row in order. The girl seemed extroverted. As soon as the homeroom teacher finished speaking, she stood up from her seat and cheerfully began to introduce herself on stage. Hello everyone, my name is Chu Yuxi, and my special talents are playing the lute, chess, calligraphy, and painting. After her, the others followed in turn, stepping up to introduce themselves. My name is Zhong Yujia, I like watching anime, playing cosplay, and sports. My name is Peng Huiguang, I usually like to stay at home and play video games. Lin Zikan was sitting towards the back in the middle, quietly listening to his classmates' self-introductions. While listening, he noticed a strand of hair on Shen Qinghan's shoulder and reached out to remove it for her. Shen Qinghan felt the touch from behind and turned, thinking Lin Zikan had something to say to her. Lin Zikan explained, I saw a hair on your back just now and reached over to take it off and throw it away. Oh, I see, Shen Qinghan murmured, nodding quietly, and then turned back around. The two were no longer desk mates but were now seated one behind the other. Besides, the entire class was arranged with boys sitting next to boys and girls next to girls, no longer mixing boys and girls like during compulsory education. After all, first-year high school students were normally around 16 years old, with secondary sexual characteristics already well developed, and it was not quite appropriate to have boys and girls sitting together. Originally, Lin Zikan, being a genius, could have used his privilege to continue sitting next to Shen Qinghan. But after some thought, he felt this arrangement wasn't beneficial to Shen Qinghan's growth. Shen Qinghan had grown up, having had another same-age friend, the girl with white hair, only for a brief time in the second grade of elementary school. Other than that, Lin Zikan was the only person in her social circle of the same age. This was far too introverted and not a good thing. A teenage girl in the midst of growing up should have not only a childhood friend but also peers of the same gender. Because many topics and hobbies can only be discussed openly among friends of the same gender and age, and a lot of joys and worries can only be shared and confided with them. The fastest way for Shen Qinghan to make friends with girls her own age was for her to have a female desk mate. With this consideration in mind, Lin Zikan chose to sit separately from Shen Qinghan. Changing their relationship from desk mates of many years to the current front and back desks. As time continued to pass, it soon came Shen Qinghan's turn to introduce herself on stage. Because of her particularly outstanding looks, as soon as she stepped onto the stage, she attracted the gaze of everyone below. Hello everyone, my name is Shen Qinghan, I like to draw, and please give me your guidance in the future. Feeling the stare of so many people, Shen Qinghan became extremely nervous. After quickly and simply introducing herself, she immediately fled from the podium back to her seat. She had been seriously rehearsing her introduction in her mind, wanting to make a perfect impression in front of the whole class, but once she got on stage, she became so nervous that she forgot everything, which really bothered her. After several more students had introduced themselves, it was finally Lin Zikan's turn. No sooner had he risen from his seat than he attracted the attention of all the girls in the class. Suddenly, a series of whispers from the girls could be heard around the room, all commenting on how handsome he was. He paid no mind to these sounds, walked straight to the platform, and introduced himself with a calm face. Hello everyone, my name is Lin Zikan, please give me your guidance in the future. He merely said this simple sentence and then stepped down to return to his seat. This introduction was the briefest among all those who had gone up to the stage, without exception. Is this guy always so aloof? Just likes to put on airs. But he really is incredibly handsome, at least 10 times more so than the class hunk in my previous class. Many boys whispered about Lin Zikan, some not so flattering words mingling in, spoken in very hushed tones. Lin Zikan's perception was extraordinary, he heard every word clearly, but he didn't mind. Boys of this junior-senior high school age, especially those fresh from middle school to the first year of high school, are most likely to look down on this and be discontented with that, it's just a matter of getting used to it. Time flew by. After the final few freshmen finished their self-introductions, the bell signaling the end of the class rang. Following the round of self-introductions in class, the freshmen were now much more familiar with one another and not as reserved as when they first arrived in the morning. As soon as the four main subject teachers left, the classroom suddenly became rowdy. Everyone was chatting with the people around them. The most popular topic was the results of the middle school exams. Class 1 of the first year was the honor class. Being assigned to this class meant that every student was a top-notch scholar with a particular concern for grades, always striving to be the best. At this moment, many were curious about the others' middle school exam scores, wanting to compare and see how they ranked. King Han, how many points did you get on the middle school exam? Seated beside Shen King Han was a girl wearing a Lolita dress with pigtail braids, looking somewhat cute. She watched Shen King Han with a curious face and asked. Shen King Han was caught off guard right away. She got in through backdoor admissions, so her middle school exam scores were not something she could speak of. After thinking it over, she finally just mentioned her scores from the cultural subjects, meekly saying, "I got 709 points. That's impressive. More than 10 points higher than mine. I only got 698 points." After she spoke, the pigtail braids girl asked further, "How many points did you get for the physical test?" "I really didn't do well on the middle school exam, just got 95 points, such a poor performance. Full marks for the physical test are 100 points, scoring 95 points already marks one as a top-performing scholar. After all, the scoring criteria for the physical test are quite tough. Managing to get 60 points, which is just passing, qualifies one to apply for the martial arts class. If you score 90 points, you're guaranteed a spot in the honor class." This pig-tailed girl claimed she had performed poorly by scoring 95 points, which was just her way of subtly showing off. "I didn't do well on the physical test either. Scored even lower than you did," Shen King Han replied with some guilt. She only scored 79 points on the physical test, a full 11 points short of qualifying for this honor class. She simply could not speak of such a score. Otherwise, once others heard it, they would immediately know she got in through the back door. However, the pig-tailed girl was insistent on digging deeper, continuing to press. "Then how many points did you score? 94 points? Or 93 points? Even lower than that?" Shen King Han didn't want to lie but couldn't disclose the exact number either. She could only give a vague answer, hoping to bluff her way through. Unfortunately, the pig-tailed girl was somewhat oblivious and determined to know the exact score before giving up, persisting with, "Is it 92 points? Or perhaps 91 points? Or is it 90 points?" Pressed by the questioning, Shen King Han felt at a loss and grew so nervous that she began to sweat from her palms. Seeing this, Lin Zikan, who was sitting behind, decided to step in and rescue Shen King Han, smiling as he turned to the pig-tailed girl and asked, "So can I add you on WeChat?" "Ah, add WeChat? Yeah, sure, should I scan you, or you scan me?" Seeing Lin Zikan take the initiative to add her on WeChat, the pig-tailed girl was flattered. As she took out her phone, her hands trembled with nervousness. Lin Zikan was just too handsome, to the point that when talking face-to-face with him, the pig-tailed girl's cheeks blushed crimson, her face nearly dripping with water, completely forgetting about Shen King Han's physical test score. P.S. Put out the bowl, seeking monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 44, 44. Create a group of 4. I'll scan yours. Lin Zikan opened WeChat and selected scan. The girl with twin ponytails excitedly opened her own WeChat profile, displaying the QR code for him. Shen King Han watched quietly from the side, pursing her lips without speaking, feeling somewhat downhearted. She knew that Lin Zikan was trying to defuse the awkward situation for her, which made her feel even more useless. She couldn't even muster the words to speak about her middle school exam scores. Just a useless burden. After adding the girl with twin ponytails, Lin Zikin turned to his desk mate and said. He you, let's add each other on WeChat as well. His desk mate was a boy with a buzz cut, a robust frame, and bright, spirited eyes. He you took out his phone, opened his WeChat profile, and placed the QR code in front of Lin Zikin, saying, you scan me. After adding each other as friends, Lin Zikin created a WeChat group and added Shen Qinghan, He you, and the girl with the twin ponytails, Li Chuxin, into it. Then, smiling at the three of them, he said. Based on our seating arrangement, it looks like we'll be in the same group from now on. I just made a group and added everyone. He you gave a smile and said, cool, that's proactive. Li Chuxin, looking at the WeChat group, suggested, then let's give our group a name. How about the Dawnbreak group? The Dawnbreak from the break of dawn. The broken group? Lin Zikin felt there was something odd about the name. However, the other two didn't seem to think of the homophone and both said the group name was pretty good. He you was simply indifferent, thinking the group name didn't really matter. And Shen Qinghan was merely tentative in front of strangers, agreeing with whatever was said. Ziai Chen, what about you? Li Chuxin asked Lin Zikin. Lin Zikin thought the group name was a bit funny, but seeing that nobody else had any objections, he nodded and said, I think it's good too. Since everyone agrees, then our group will be called the Dawnbreak group from now on, Li Chuxin said as she changed the WeChat group chat name to the two characters for Dawnbreak. You have successfully created a 4-person group, meeting the criteria for multiple people cooperating to complete a task. Cumulative completed event count, 2/1000. This works? Reading the 2 lines of text that appeared out of nowhere, Lin Zikin was slightly surprised. It seems that the achievement task for multiple people cooperating to complete something wasn't too difficult, it could be accomplished without putting in much effort. After all, even creating a 4-person group had been enough to progress the achievement task. So cleaning the blackboard together, sweeping the floor together, or taking out the garbage together would definitely advance the progress as well. One could say that for this achievement task, all you need is a hand. In the time that followed, apart from Lin Zikin, who had already added the others on WeChat, the remaining 3 started to add each other as well. Then, led by He you, everyone started checking each other's backgrounds. After chatting for a while, they learned the following. He you wasn't a local from Shanghai City but from the neighboring Nangwon City, where his family had been running martial arts studios for generations, making him the scion of a martial arts family. The reason he came to Shanghai City for high school was that his family was planning to expand their market here, and his parents were in charge of this project. To facilitate this project, his parents had moved to Shanghai City to settle, and as an only child, he had no choice but to follow them. He you, if your family has been running martial arts studios for generations, then your martial arts skills must be really strong, Li Chuxin speculated. Hey, this was exactly the comment he had been waiting for. He you felt delighted inside, but he maintained a calm and breezy expression, saying, actually, it's just so-so, just good enough not to disgrace my family. I got lucky and managed to secure the 8th place in Nangwon City's youth martial arts competition last year. Wow, 8th in the whole city, He you, you're really amazing. Li Chuxin looked at him with admiration. So impressive, Shen Qinghan joined in the admiration, but she still thought Lin Zikin was the most formidable. Lin Zikin also gave his support. I didn't expect we had a martial arts master in our group. So, in future martial arts classes, if we come across anything we don't understand, we'll have to ask you for advice. No problem, leave it to me. He you enthusiastically slapped his chest and agreed. Having all 3 group members praise him like this made him feel ecstatic. Especially Shen Qinghan and Li Chuxin, the 2 beautiful girls looking at him with admiration made him feel so thrilled he couldn't get enough. After basking in the moment, he turned to them and asked, by the way, what do your families do? Li Chuxin replied, my family runs a clothing store. We have several branches in the district. Upon hearing this, He gave his own compliment, wow, looks like we have a little rich girl here, no wonder you're always decked out in branded clothes, so envious. Li Chuxin laughed and waved her hand dismissively, oh, stop teasing me, big young master he. Your family's martial arts studios have expanded to other cities. If anything, I should be envious of you. After she finished speaking, she turned to Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan, asking curiously, Zi Chen, Qinghan, what do your families do? Shen Qinghan said a bit shyly, both my parents are high school teachers, teaching cultural subjects. Being a teacher is great, not only stable income but also respected, you're a child born into a scholarly family. He complimented skillfully, practicing reciprocation. Li Chuxin had a sudden realization, no wonder you're so good in cultural subjects, your parents are both teachers. After that, she turned to Lin Zikan and asked, Zi Chen, what about you? Lin Zikan said calmly, my parents are freelancers, they write web novels at home. No way, they're novel writers. He was quite surprised and then asked curiously, I love reading novels in my spare time. What novels do your parents write? I'll search for them and take a look. Lin Zikan smiled and said, I'll send the titles in the group chat, so you guys can check them out. And so, he sent the titles into the group chat. Being his childhood friend, Shen Qinghan had already read all of these books. She even volunteered as his naval force, creating tons of reader accounts to flood the comment sections of the books with high praises like speed up the updates, I can't sleep at night, super good read, can't stop looking away, and the writing is so good in this book, the plot is exhilarating. He and Li Chuxin, driven by their curiosity, opened the group chat to check the titles, and then started searching for them online. Shortly after looking up the books, He, true to form, praised, nicely done, the titles and synopses are all very enticing, I'll have to give them a read tonight. Li Chuxin, surprised, mentioned, why are all of these male-oriented novels? Doesn't your mom write female-oriented novels? Lin Zikan explained with a smile, my mom used to write for the female audience, but for some reasons, she later switched to writing male-oriented novels, and that's how she met my dad, and then they had me. Wow, that sounds like such a fateful encounter, Li Chuxin said with a look of envy, thinking how wonderful it would be to meet her other half similarly in the future, feeling exceedingly sweet about it. P.S. Happy New Year, everyone, I'm going to try and see if I can add another chapter. Chapter 45, 45. The genius heavily recruited by the school. The four of them didn't chat for long before they had pretty much exhausted all the topics within the group. As the catalyst for the conversation, He, seeing that there was little else to discuss, took the initiative to steer the conversation towards other classmates. He mysteriously said to the three of them, guess who's the strongest in our class? I bet you won't be able to guess. Li Chuxin looked puzzled, aren't you from Nangwon City? Logically, you shouldn't know much about our class. How do you know who's the strongest? No sooner had she finished speaking than she seemed to realize something and said somewhat speechlessly, you're not going to say you're the strongest in the class, are you? Not at all, I'm not that arrogant. I have some sense of reality, at best, I could only rank third in our class, He modestly claimed. Li Chuxin shook her head and said, then I have no idea. I don't know many people in the class. Just as she finished speaking, she suddenly remembered Lin Zikan, and immediately added with a smile, if you really want me to guess, I'd say it's Zi Chen who is the most formidable. He's the district's top scorer in the middle school exam. Holy shit, Zi Chen, are you really that awesome? He was a bit shocked, he hadn't expected Lin Zikan to be the district's top scorer. Appearances can be deceiving. After all, under normal circumstances, handsome people are usually not very skilled. Because the powers that be have to be fair, they can't make someone both good-looking and strong, otherwise it would totally disrupt the balance of the game called Earth OL. After the shock, He thought for a moment and felt it wasn't a big deal, it was just district's top scorer, not the city's. He might not even be as strong as himself. Thinking this, he said to the three of them in a hushed tone, being the district's top scorer might be a bit lacking. You might not believe this, but we have two tough guys in our class who were heavily recruited by the principal from Nangwon City. How so? Lee Chuksan was very curious. Lin Zikin was also quite interested, waiting for He to reveal the answer. He motioned for the three to come closer and then, in an even lower voice, told them. That boy sitting by the window in the third row on the left, the one who just introduced himself on stage as Wang Shuja, he's the third runner-up in Nangwon City's middle school exams, and his 100-meter sprint is timed at 7.98 seconds. Also, the tall guy sitting in the last row on the right, named Lu Gang, he's naturally super strong and can easily lift a 300-kilogram barbell with one hand. These two are definitely the strongest in the class. Besides them, Zi Chen and I should be considered the strongest, He added. He originally wanted to say that apart from those two, he was the strongest. But considering that Lin Zikin was a member of his group, it seemed inappropriate to exclude him, so he included Lin Zikin as well. My God! Really? Lee Chuksan was astonished and her face showed her disbelief. Shen Qinghan was calm as always, firmly believing that Lin Zikin was the strongest in the class, but she kept her thoughts to herself and didn't voice her opinion. Lin Zikin just smiled and said nothing. Running 100 meters in 7.98 seconds? Easily lifting a 300-kilogram weight with one hand? Lin Zikin had been able to do both these things since primary school. Could some students come and help move some books and uniforms? The homeroom teacher, Han Yuanfeng, appeared at the door at some point and called into the classroom where everyone had been chatting animatedly. A few boys sitting near the door immediately stood up and volunteered to help move the books and uniforms. Before long, the books and uniforms were all brought back. Under Han Yuanfeng's direction, several students sitting in the front row quickly and orderly began distributing the books and uniforms to their classmates. There weren't many books, just 4 for each student, corresponding to the 4 main subjects. Martial Arts Practice Compulsory 1. Genetic Fusion Compulsory 1. Mechanical Transformation Compulsory 1. Wilderness Survival Compulsory 1. The titles were simple and straightforward, making it clear what the content was about. As for the uniforms, 5 sets were given out per student, 3 for summer and 2 for winter. Lin Zikin opened a package and felt the material of the uniform, finding, to his surprise, that it was quite nice to the touch, not inferior to clothes that sell for hundreds in stores. One could only say that a key high school is different, the funding is substantial, and the materials provided to students are never shoddy. Once the books and uniforms had all been distributed, Han Yuanfeng walked up to the podium and turned on the projector, casting a chart of class officer positions onto the screen. There weren't many positions, just 5 in total. They were Class President, Discipline Officer, Study Officer, Arts Officer, and Life Officer. Han Yuanfeng looked at the students below and said, anyone who wants to run for a class officer position can come up now and let everyone vote to decide. Lin Zikin wasn't interested in these roles and took only a glance before lowering his head to flip through the textbook that had just been handed out. Shen Qinghan was extremely introverted and had no intention of being a class officer either, also burying her head in the textbook. He set his eyes on the position of class president and said to his group, guys, I'll be running for class president soon, don't forget to vote for me. He had just finished speaking when Lee Chuksan immediately followed up with a smile, I'll be running for arts officer later, so make sure to vote for me too. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan both nodded and agreed. A few minutes later, the election for class officers began. Quite a few people wanted to be class officers, and one by one they stepped up to run. He was among the first to go up, aiming to be class president. But unfortunately, he failed to be elected. The position of class president was snapped up by Wang Shijia, who could run 100 meters in 7.98 seconds. Changing his target, he decided to run for discipline officer. Yet again, he was unsuccessful in the election. The discipline officer role was taken by Liu Gang, who could easily lift 300 kilograms with one hand. Feeling numb, He returned to his seat with a face full of life's doubts, and only after a long while did he mutter resentfully, "Damn it, you two sneaky brats, just wait. Sooner or later I'll overtake you on the bend and rub you into the ground." Unlike Li Chuxin aspired and successfully got elected as the arts officer. You worked in unison with your group members and successfully helped Li Chuxin get elected as the arts officer. Cumulative deeds accomplished, 3/1000. Han, we don't have a publicity officer in our class, so I, as the arts officer, will have to be in charge of the bulletin board. But I'm not good at drawing, and I remember you mentioned you liked drawing during your self-introduction. Could you help me out? After coming down from the podium, Li Chuxin adopted the same endearing title for Shen Qinghan that Lin Zikan used, and looked at Shen Qinghan with a pleading tone. Faced with her deskmate's request for help, Shen Qinghan agreed without hesitation, I will help you." She did enjoy drawing and was quite willing to take charge of the bulletin board. Li Chuxin was immediately overjoyed upon hearing this and hugged her tightly, exclaiming, "Bestie, from now on, you are my bestie." Shen Qinghan was unaccustomed to the embrace and didn't know where to put her hands. Li Chuxin was overly enthusiastic, so much so that Shen Qinghan found it hard to get used to at first. Lin Zikan watched this scene unfold before his eyes, smiling to himself. He thought it was a good development. He reckoned it wouldn't be long before Shen Qinghan would have a sister to share everything with. Books and uniforms had been handed out. Class officers had been selected. Seeing that there was nothing else to do, Han Yuanfeng on the stage told the students they could have free time in the class and could go home at the end of the period, as long as they didn't leave the school in the meantime. Students sitting below were quite astonished to hear this. Yesterday was the registration day, so it was understandable there were no classes. But what about today? Why were there no classes today either? Li Chuxin knew the reasoning behind this and smiled as she explained to the somewhat puzzled trio within her group. This is a tradition at Shanghai High School, to let students get acquainted with the school and their classmates as quickly as possible. There are no classes for the first 2 days, just free time. Lin Zikan was hearing about this for the first time and felt a bit uninformed. P.S. Begging for your monthly and recommended tickets. Chapter 46, 46. The Fall of a Prodigy. The Wails of Rat God Cult Followers. Since they had the whole day free, students quickly began to enjoy themselves around the school. Some wandered around the campus in groups. Some gathered together to chat. Some bowed their heads to play with their smartphones. There were also those who flipped through new books to preview the material in advance. Shen Qinghan was one of those reading books, currently hunched over a textbook, earnestly previewing the content, very diligent and hardworking. Lin Zikan had glanced over the textbooks before and found that much of the content was things he had self-studied as a child, so he didn't bother to look further. Instead, he started playing with his phone, scrolling through real-time news online. Lived up to expectations. The capital city child prodigy that once shook the nation, has now been recommended for admission to Kyoto University, studying at Evolution College, and is expected to evolve into an advanced-level creature during his university years. Heartbreaking. Genius mechanical girl underwent mechanical enhancements too early before her body fully developed. Now suffering from a multitude of physiological issues, with many parts of her body deformed, her latter life likely to be spent as a disabled person. Great news! Huawei Group has successfully cultivated a rare common Tier 5 spiritual plant. The global spiritual plant market might welcome major changes. Lin Zikan glanced at these 3 pieces of news on the homepage, and his attention quickly settled on the second news about the genius mechanical girl. After reading it briefly, he felt a mix of emotions. Parents are great. But clearly, not everyone with a child is fit to be a parent. The parents of this mechanical genius girl marketed their daughter's talents to make money, completely disregarding her safety and subjecting her to various mechanical modifications. They were unworthy of being parents. Even, unworthy of being human. Linziken shook his head, not dwelling on it any further, and scrolled down on his phone to look at other news. After reading more than 20 articles, he realized that a large number contained news about the rat god cult. Counting them up, they nearly made up half of the news. Linziken frowned slightly. Why has there suddenly been so much news about the rat god cult? Had something happened? With these questions in mind, he opened and went through all the news related to the rat god cult. He then learned that the city's security headquarters had recently concluded a crackdown, capturing a number of the rat god cult's followers. Related news was all being reported today. Did they only capture followers? What about the Rat King, whom the followers revere as a god? Was he captured? Linziken's mind was filled with thoughts, and he quickly continued scrolling through the news. After finishing the recommended news on the web page, he started to search out other related news to read. To his disappointment, he discovered that the security headquarters' recent crackdown was all bark and no bite, capturing only some followers and not even a single giant mutant rat. After browsing the news for a while longer, feeling somewhat bored, Linziken put his phone away, quietly stood up and left the classroom, and decided to find a secluded corner to exercise his body, rather than wasting time in the classroom. After walking around the school, he finally arrived at a deserted little grove. This place, with no people or surveillance, was perfect to use as a secret base for training. So, he casually moved a 100-pound rock over and began doing high-intensity weight training exercises. You are doing weight-bearing push UPS, Chi blood +2, arm muscle strength +2, chest muscle strength +2, push-up proficiency +1. You are doing weight-bearing sit UPS, Chi blood +2, abdominal muscle strength +2, sit-up proficiency +1. You are doing weight-bearing squats, Chi blood +2, leg muscle strength +2, squat proficiency +1. After an indeterminate amount of time, Linziken finally finished his workout, drenched in sweat from head to toe. I'm exhausted but fulfilled, I can clearly feel myself getting stronger. Common adult giant mutant rats are at biological level common tier 5. Just one more evolution, and I'll surpass them. With that thought, Linziken flopped down again, positioning the stone he had just removed back onto his back and started doing push UPS against the ground like a maniac once more. You've completed 300 weighted push UPS, Chi blood +600, arm muscle strength +600. Chest muscle strength +600, push-up proficiency +300. After quickly finishing a set of weighted push UPS, Linziken felt that it was about time, so he stopped, wiped the sweat from his face, and took out his cell phone to check the time. The top right corner of his phone screen showed it was already 17:20 in the afternoon, almost time for school to end. Then he saw a WeChat message notification from Shen Qinghan at the top of his phone screen. He opened it to find 3 messages. 15:12 in the afternoon. Han Han, Xiao Chen, where did you go? Why haven't you come back for so long? 16:22 in the afternoon. Han Han, where are you? Confused emoji. 17:11 in the afternoon. Han Han, Xiao Chen, there are only 19 minutes left until class ends. I'll wait for you in the classroom, don't go home by yourself. Remember to come find me when you see this message. 17:22 in the afternoon. Ziai Chen, I was just exercising and didn't check my phone, I'm on my way back now. After sending this message to Shen Qinghan, Linziken put away his phone and headed back to the classroom. As soon as he walked through the classroom door, Li Chuxin, seeing him drenched in sweat, couldn't help but ask curiously, where did you go? Why are you covered in sweat? Yu was also puzzled. Yet, where have you been all this time? Did you go to play basketball or soccer? Shen Qinghan remained quiet, kindly pulling out a few tissues and handing them to Lin Zikin so he could wipe the sweat from his face. She had wanted to wipe his face for him, but there were too many people watching in the classroom, and she felt too shy to do it. Lin Zikin took the handed tissues, wiping the sweat from his face, and said honestly, I didn't go anywhere, just felt bored sitting in class and found a secluded place outside to exercise a bit. Li Chuxin looked at him admiringly, not only are you talented, but you're also so hard-working. No wonder you were the top student in our district for the middle school exams. Yu teased, wow, sneaking off to work out, do you really have to be so competitive? He spoke quite loudly, drawing the attention of many nearby students. Keep it down, Yu. Li Chuxin shot him a discontented glance, feeling that this Nangwen guy was too loud, louder than a crowing rooster, which she felt was unpleasant. Yu realized his faux pas and quickly laughed it off, sorry. At that moment, the bell signaling the end of class rang. The students could now go home. Li Chuxin took out 3 bags from her backpack and handed one to each group member. Here, 1 bag for each of you for your uniforms. Thanks. Thanks, Chu Xin. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan both accepted the bags with a smile, thanking her. Yu, as usual, was boisterous in his thanks. Wow, you even planned ahead by keeping bags in your backpack, such a clever move. Seeing him being loud again, Li Chuxin gave him an exasperated look. Lin Zikin and Shen Qinghan, meanwhile, were quietly packing up their things, one eager to go home for a meal, the other keen to get home and read. P.S. Bowing here, asking for monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 47, Mouse Walks the World. Xiao Chen, I've packed my stuff, let's go. Give me the bag to carry. Okay. Shen Qinghan didn't stand on ceremony with Lin Zikin, and directly handed over the bag containing the school uniform to him. Lin Zikin took the bag and left the classroom with Shen Qinghan. Watching the two of them walk away, a girl in the class who had specifically transferred to Shanghai High School to be in the same class as Lin Zikin said dreamily. Lin Zikin is so gentlemanly, even knows how to carry a girl's bag. I wish I were his childhood sweetheart. Gentlemanly? More like showing off if you ask me. Today is free time, everyone is either chatting or walking around the campus, only he goes out of his way to exercise outside. Such a show-off. Next to the girl, a tall and skinny boy said disdainfully. He was the top scorer of the middle school exams at Shanghai No. 1 Middle School, with excellent academic grades and somewhat handsome features. For all 3 years of junior high, he was the school's pride, surrounded by admiring peers, and received love letters until his hands were sore. And the girl sitting beside him was the only one who could compete with him for the top spot throughout junior high. During their rivalry, he gradually developed feelings for her. After the middle school exams, upon learning that the girl had chosen Shanghai High School, he didn't hesitate to turn down the high school principal's retention efforts at Shanghai No. 1 Middle School and followed the girl in choosing Shanghai High School. Seeing the girl so enamored with Lin Zikin irritated him. I was here first. What does that guy have that I don't? Why did things turn out like this? Hey, we're all classmates here, let's not talk behind each other's backs. If you really have an issue with him, just challenge him in the martial arts class, said Liu Gang, who could lift 300 kilograms with one hand, after hearing what the tall and skinny boy had just said, and walked over to speak to him. The tall and skinny boy, instinctively wanting to snap back when confronted, turned around to face who had addressed him and found himself facing a nearly 2-meter-tall behemoth. He immediately wimped out, not daring to make a sound. Seeing him like this, the girl by his side promptly kicked him while he was down and said, "Exactly, if you have a problem with Lin Zikin, just go and spar with him. But be careful not to end up like during the 8 school tournament, stepping on the martial stage and getting kicked off by one foot, landing face first in the dirt. You! The tall and skinny boy was so angry he couldn't speak, and suddenly felt that the girl in front of him was nauseating. Lu Gang looked at the girl and asked, "That Lin Zikan, is he really that good?" When the subject turned to Lin Zikan, the girl's eyes sparkled with excitement as she enthusiastically listed her idol's virtues for Lu Gang. Amazing! Totally amazing! Absolutely unbeatable! Since childhood, Lin Zikan is the most incredible straight-A student I've ever seen in real life. You might not believe it, but when Lin Zikan started junior high, he toppled all the middle school students in the district. And when I say all, I mean including the second and third graders too. Also, it wasn't just simple one-on-one fights. The girl grew more and more animated as she spoke, her face flushing with excitement, and she seemed overly thrilled, as if Lin Zikan were someone special to her. A moment later, after listening to her descriptions of Lin Zikan, Lu Gang couldn't help but say with a smile, "Interesting, I should take the opportunity to have a spar with him someday." "Forget it, Lu Gang." At that moment, a muscular boy walked over and said. He was the third top scorer of the middle school exams from Nangwon City. A genius named Wang Shijia who could run 100 meters in 7.98 seconds. Wang Shijia walked up to Lu Gang and stopped, his face as calm as water. No matter how formidable that person is, at the end of the day, they're just a top scholar from one of Shanghai City's districts, basically just a monkey calling itself king because there are no tigers in the mountains. And you're a genius who could rank within the top 5 in Nangwon City. There's no need to lower your standards to find such an opponent to spar with. If you want to spar, just come to me. This so-called genius named Wang Shijia was filled with disdain for the students of Shanghai City, which made many of the local students in the class feel uncomfortable. Lu Gang waved his hand. "Forget it, sparring with you would be pointless. You're too fast, I can't hit you, you're too weak, you can't hurt me. We could fight for a long time on the stage and still not determine a winner." Wang Shijia smiled and said, "In that case, how about this? I'm planning to challenge the students from the advanced second-year class in a while. Shall we do it together then?" "Fine by me." Lu Gang agreed without a second thought. After this exchange, the two quickly left the classroom together. They were geniuses that the school had spent a fortune to recruit and were living in the faculty dormitories provided by the school. Just the two of them, living in a luxurious 3-bedroom apartment. After the two had left, the boy and girl from Shanghai No. 1 middle school in the classroom were somewhat dazed. A genius ranked in the top 5 in Nangwon City? What's happening? How did our class get a scholastic champion from Nangwon City? You see, the education level in Nangwon City is much higher than that of Shanghai City. They produce a provincial top scholar every few years. Whereas Shanghai City has only had the good fortune of producing a provincial top scholar once in the past few decades, and that was over 20 years ago, so long past that it's not even comparable to Nangwon City. So, why would these two scholastic champions from Nangwon City come to Shanghai High School to study? The boy and girl from Shanghai No. 1 middle school were utterly perplexed by this question. On the school path, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan were strolling side by side at a leisurely pace. Once out of the classroom, Shen Qinghan became much more lively, chatting non-stop with Lin Zikan all the way. As she spoke, something suddenly occurred to her, and she said to Lin Zikan, "Oh, by the way, Mom just sent a message on WeChat saying she'll be home late because of work at school today, and asked me to buy some vegetables on the way home after school. Let's buy them at the vegetable market to the right outside the school gate later. Let's buy them at the supermarket. We're young and not used to buying groceries, it's easy to get swindled at roadside stands. Then let's go to the supermarket." After this simple exchange, they quickly left the school and took a bus to the nearest supermarket to buy groceries. After getting off the bus, they still had to walk a distance to reach the supermarket. While passing through an alleyway, Shen Qinghan suddenly got startled and pointed into the alley. "Xiao Chen! There are so many rats over there. Linziken looked in the direction she pointed and indeed saw several rats in the alleyway. Even more, there was a big rat fighting with a cat over cat food. Faced with this scene, Linziken's eyebrows furrowed, and he picked up a stone with the intention of smashing the big rat that was fighting with the cat. But then he thought better of it and in the end, decided not to do it. For now, it's probably best not to mess with creatures like rats. After all, the mystery of the giant mutant rats still remains unsolved to this day. No one knows how they suddenly appeared in human society, nor whether they have any connection to ordinary rats. Linziken was worried that killing the big rat in the alley might bring trouble upon himself. P.S. Begging bowl out, seeking monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 48, 48. Everyone likes to show off. In the evening, after dinner, Linziken rested for a while before quickly going up to his room to engage in high-intensity training. After more than 3 hours of practice, when he felt his muscles go numb, he stopped, sweating profusely, to take a break. Even during his rest, he didn't waste time. Sitting on the floor, he used his phone to search for news related to the rat god cult to keep up with the movements of this heretical sect. A quick search revealed that in less than a day, several more followers had been captured. It had to be said, the efficiency of the city's security headquarters was high. The only downside was that they still hadn't caught the giant mutant rat. In fact, they hadn't even seen a shadow of one. It was as if this creature had never existed in the human world, which was baffling. After resting for a moment, Linziken put away his phone, picked up his clothes, and went to the bathroom. After the bath, he turned off the lights and went to bed. Before sleeping, he set an alarm for 3 in the morning, planning to go out to test his physical data when no one was around. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. The alarm on his phone went off. Linziken woke up to the sound, put on his clothes, took his measuring tools, and quickly left the house quietly. Then, finding a blind spot away from surveillance cameras, he began his tests. In less than 10 minutes, the test results came out. He could sprint 100 meters in only 3.59 seconds. His vertical jump could reach 7.02 meters. He could lift a car weighing around 1,650 kilograms with one hand. Compared to the last test, all 3 data points had improved. After testing, Linziken didn't linger outside. He took his measuring tools and jogged home. On his way past a green belt, he saw a fat rat. Upon closer inspection, he was surprised to find the rat lying on the ground eating a bird. It was a sparrow. The sparrow was still alive, its wings flapping in struggle, trying to escape the rat's clutches, but to no avail. Linziken was shocked by the scene before him. He had seen cats eat birds before. But a rat eating a bird? What was going on? How did it catch the bird to eat it? Linziken furrowed his brow, feeling that the scene was bizarre, and quickly kept his distance from the rat, choosing to take a detour home. On the way back, he took the opportunity to call the security office to report the situation. The people at the security office told him to stay away, but didn't say much else, not even asking for the location. They seemed to not care much. The next morning, after breakfast, Linziken played with his phone at his front door, waiting for Shen Qinghan to come out so they could go to school together. It wasn't long before Shen Qinghan emerged, holding a small bag of cookies. She stopped in front of Linziken, took out a cookie from the bag, and held it to his mouth with a sweet smile. "Mom made these cookies last night, try one." These were especially made by Su Meng for her to take to school and share with her classmates, hoping she would get along well with everyone in her class. Linziken took a bite and smiled. "Aunt Meng's cookies are as delicious as always." "Of course," Shen Qinghan said with pride. After a brief chat, the two of them quickly set off for school. Entering the school's gate and walking down the path, Linziken suddenly heard someone calling his name from behind. Turning around, he saw a tall girl coming into view. She looked like an upperclassman. "Ah, Zi Chen Jr., it really is you, I knew your silhouette looked so familiar. The girl, upon seeing Lin Zikin's extremely familiar handsome face, immediately ran over with an excited look and said. Lin Zikin sized up the girl and found he didn't recognize her, which left him somewhat puzzled. With a smile, the girl said, Zi Chen Jr., do you still remember me? During the school sports meet in your first year, I was always there beside you, cheering you on until my throat went hoarse. Lin Zikin didn't remember at all, but he still smiled politely and said, of course I remember. The girl was overjoyed upon hearing that he remembered. Lin Zikin didn't chat with her much and just left her with a "See you, senior" before heading to the grade 10 class 1 classroom with Shen Qinghan. On the way, Shen Qinghan couldn't help but express her admiration. Xiao Chen, you are really popular, there seems to be your little fangirls everywhere. Lin Zikin just smiled without saying anything. After arriving at the classroom, Shen Qinghan shared the biscuits with Li Chuxin and He Yu. The two of them had never tasted such delicious biscuits before, and after finding out they were personally made by Su Meng, Shen Qinghan's mother, they couldn't stop praising her. As Su Meng's daughter, Shen Qinghan felt very pleased listening to this. Soon, the class bell rang. The students of grade 10 class 1 were greeted by their very first high school lesson. The class was on mechanical transformation, and the teacher's name was Cai Yuanfei, a techie with glasses. The content of the first class was very basic, mainly explaining some fundamental concepts and principles to the students. Lin Zikin listened for a bit and found that it was all knowledge he had learned from books in his childhood, so he quietly took out a book he had brought from home and read it, not wanting to waste time listening to the lecture. Apart from him, the rest of the class listened attentively. After all, not everyone was like him, having read extensively from a young age and having a photographic memory. The vast majority had to keep pace with the teacher's lessons. While Lin Zikin quietly read his book, Liu Gang and Wang Shijia, the two academic elites from Nangwen City, were very active in the classroom. Whenever the teacher posed a question, these two would immediately vie to answer, and they always got it right, astonishing their classmates and making them think these two were incredibly strong. Cai Yuanfei, the teacher, also praised them profusely, saying they deserved their reputation as top students from Nangwen City, having such a rich reserve of knowledge. After mechanical transformation class, the next subject was genetic fusion class. The genetic fusion class teacher was named Lu Diran, another techie with glasses. The content of the first class was also about explaining some concepts and principles. Lin Zikin listened for a while, realized it was content he had self-studied long ago, and continued to lower his head to read the book he had brought. Meanwhile, Liu Gang and Wang Shijia continued their eager participation in the class. Lu Diran, having taught for many years, had never encountered students with such a rich knowledge reserve, and he couldn't help but give them a big thumbs up and praised. Incredible, the students from Nangwen City are impressive. I've been teaching for so many years and have never seen students as remarkable as these two, truly an eye-opener for me. Hearing this assessment, both Liu Gang and Wang Shijia felt greatly satisfied in their vanity. Before long, the dismissal bell rang. After 2 periods of mechanical transformation and 2 periods of genetic fusion class, the entire morning's lessons were over. Shu Ji, I heard you're the 3rd highest scorer in Nangwen City's middle school exams, isn't that amazing? Liu Gang, I heard you can easily lift 300 kilograms weights with one hand, is that true? My goodness, the top students from Nangwen City are just too strong. During the lunch break, most of the students in the class crowded around the 2 academic elites from Nangwen City, marveling at their strength. Seeing this scene, He Yu felt sour all over and couldn't help but mutter under his breath, damn, these two really like to show off, they kept trying to showcase themselves during class, as if they were afraid no one would know how strong they are. However, Lin Zikin thought it was pretty normal for those two to show off, he didn't see any reason to disapprove. They studied so hard and worked so diligently, they had finally achieved such excellent results, and if you didn't allow them to indulge a little, that would be too harsh. In many cases, one's biggest motivation to strive forward is for the opportunity to show off after succeeding. Returning home with wealth and honor without being able to flaunt it is like walking in brocade at night, unseen. That's the logic behind it. P.S. Please support with monthly and recommendation tickets. Chapter 49, 49. Shen Qinghan's Secret. After lunch break, Lin Zikan headed to his afternoon practical class. The first class was the Wilderness Survival course. The teacher, Cheng Bei, wasn't interested in discussing concepts or philosophies. Instead, he immediately had the students try doing things hands-on, asking if anyone knew how to start a fire by drilling wood. As he spoke, he took out several dry sticks of wood and threw them on the ground to see if anyone possessed this skill. However, he pretty much assumed no one would. This skill was hardly ever needed in daily life, so who would bother to learn it for no reason? Contrary to his expectations, Liu Gang and Wang Shijia, the two top students from Nangguan City, both knew how to start a fire by drilling wood. As soon as he had thrown the wood on the ground, the two of them walked over and started drilling skillfully. Then, in no time, they managed to produce a flame and successfully started a fire. What's going on? How come you two are so skilled, even knowing how to start a fire by drilling wood? Cheng Bei said, his face full of disbelief. Liu Gang replied with a smile, "Teacher, I participated in an outdoor summer camp during the summer break of my 8th grade year, and I learned how to start a fire there." Wang Shijia said indifferently, "I learned it from the internet when I was in elementary school." Hearing Wang Shijia, many of the students in the class gaped in surprise. Are the top students from Nangguan City really that impressive? He learned how to start a fire by drilling wood during elementary school from the internet? That's truly incredible. Lin Zikan also looked at Wang Shijia, not expecting someone else to be like him, interested in self-learning various skills through online videos since childhood. It seemed that top students did have certain things in common. In the following time, apart from the two Nangguan City whizzes, the other students in the class followed Cheng Bei in learning how to start a fire by drilling wood. "Xiao Chen, this is so hard, my hand is almost blistering from drilling, and I can't even make a hole. How fast do you have to drill to get a fire going?" Looking at her slightly reddened palm, occasionally throbbing with pain, Shen Qinghan wore a face of frustration. Li Chuxin and He Yu beside her were in the same boat, unable to drill into the stick on the ground at all. Seeing this, Lin Zikan said to the three of them, "Come here, I'll teach you." On hearing this, He Yu couldn't help but express his doubt, "You know how to drill wood for fire?" Lin Zikan explained, "I also self-learned how to drill wood for fire on the internet before." Li Chuxin said with admiration, "Zai Chen, you're so amazing." Lin Zikan just smiled and quickly passed on his little tricks for starting a fire by drilling wood to the three of them, correcting their incorrect drilling movements as well. Among the three, Shen Qinghan was relatively clumsy, and her drilling movements were consistently incorrect. Lin Zikan had no choice but to squat next to her and show her how to drill, hands-on. Having Lin Zikan so intimately holding her hand in front of so many people, Shen Qinghan's entire face turned red, all the way up to the roots of her ears, looking as though it could drip water. After the Wilderness Survival class ended, the students of Class 1, Grade 1, finally welcomed their homeroom teacher Han Yuanfeng's martial arts training class. This was one of the most important courses in the high school stage. The main content of the course was to understand the human body, exercise it, and learn various martial arts techniques. Han Yuanfeng started the class by teaching everyone a special breathing exercise. This breathing exercise, once mastered, could regulate one's breath and enhance the effectiveness of physical exercise. However, the improvement was not significant, it was only slightly better than eye exercises. While listening to Han Yuanfeng's explanations and watching him demonstrate the breathing technique, Lin Zikan learned it right away. It wasn't difficult, you just had to get the rhythm of your breathing right to learn it. But that was just for him. Apart from him, not a single other student in the class could get it right. They were all complaining about how tough it was, and how they nearly suffocated several times during practice. One girl even got so oxygen deprived from the practice that she ended up leaning against a tree, retching. Everyone, don't rush, this breathing technique is quite challenging. On average, it takes about 3 days for the top students of previous freshman classes to learn it. Seeing defeat written across everyone's faces, Han Yuanfeng also took the opportunity to offer some timely comfort. No sooner had he finished speaking than Wang Shiji came over and said, "Teacher, I've learned it." Shock coursed through Han Yuanfeng. This was only the first class, and yet someone had already learned it. Before he could fully process his shock, Liu Gang also raised his hand high and said, "Teacher, I've learned it too, see if this is how it's done." After speaking, Liu Gang began to practice the breathing technique somewhat awkwardly, constantly adjusting his own breath. Upon seeing this, Wang Shiji also started to practice the breathing technique. Seeing that both of them had truly mastered the breathing technique, Han Yuanfeng became utterly excited. Looking at Liu Gang and Wang Shiji, he did not hesitate to lavish them with praise in front of everyone. "Amazing, really amazing. No wonder you were able to achieve excellent results in the competitive Nangguan city, your learning abilities are truly outstanding." The other students, witnessing this, felt overwhelming envy on their faces. At the same time, a sense of defeat also arose within them. Everybody who had managed to get into Shanghai High School's martial arts elite class had been the pride of their own schools during middle school, the academic stars in everyone's eyes. However, in front of Liu Gang and Wang Shiji, they felt like fireflies trying to shine alongside the brilliant moon, instantly losing their luster, a rather disheartening realization. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, several days had passed. During these days, the school's schedule was basically the same every day. From Monday to Thursday, they had mechanical modification and genetic fusion classes in the morning, followed by wilderness survival and martial arts training in the afternoon. Come Friday, the whole day was dedicated to elective courses. During this time, Liu Gang and Wang Shiji continued to actively demonstrate their abilities, earning the esteem of every teacher. Lin Zikan, on the other hand, kept a low profile, quietly working on strengthening his body each day. Occasionally, he organized a group of 4 to clean the blackboard, take out the trash, and water the classroom plants, quietly completing these seemingly insignificant tasks to advance the progress bar for his social animal achievement. After several days, he made quite a bit of progress. Achievement: cooperatively complete tasks 1000 times under the premise of teamwork. Reward: acquire biometric attribute social animal. Number of tasks completed: 56/1000. This day, Saturday morning. Lin Zikan got up early and stood in front of Shen Qinghan's house, waiting for her to come out. They had agreed the night before to go to the seaside for fun today. Just the two of them, without their parents. Shanghai City is a coastal city, surrounded by the sea everywhere. The nearest beach was less than 30 kilometers away. There was no problem for the two of them to go out together. They could leave in the morning and return at night. Both sets of parents were very reassured. Of course, they were mainly reassured about Lin Zikan. "Xiao Chen, let's go," a sweet voice called out. Shen Qinghan emerged from the house, wearing a backpack filled with items and smiling cheerfully at Lin Zikan. Shortly after, they took a ride to the nearest beach for their day out. It was said to be for fun, but in truth, they wanted to train their swimming skills and also examine Shen Qinghan's physical condition. Lin Zikan had always wanted to uncover the secrets of Shen Qinghan's body, why she had urinary incontinence, why she was naturally such a strong swimmer. And what was the sound that Shen Qinghan heard under the sea that time? Was it a hallucination, or something else? Could it be related to the abnormalities Shen Qinghan had been experiencing for years? These mysteries lingered in his mind, and he yearned to solve them every day. P.S. Setting up the bowl, asking for monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 50, 50, If you have hands, you'll be fine. Almost an hour later, the bus arrived at its destination smoothly, and the two got off and headed to the beach. They arrived at the changing room and changed into the swimsuits they brought along. Linziken wore only a pair of swim trunks, revealing his well-sculpted, muscular upper body. Shen Qinghan, as always, was dressed modestly, only exposing a bit of her thighs, embarrassed to reveal too much in a public setting. "Fewer people over there, let's go that way," Linziken said. "Okay," Shen Qinghan replied, nodding her head and obediently following Linziken. Soon, both of them entered the shallow water. Linziken first had Shen Qinghan test how long she could hold her breath underwater, to see if she could still last over 10 minutes like the last time. To his surprise, Shen Qinghan's performance shocked him, holding her breath underwater for 20 minutes. "Ziai Chen, how much?" 20 minutes and 38 seconds, he answered. "Ah, that long?" Shen Qinghan gasped in disbelief, stunned by her own performance. To her, Linziken said, "Han Han, your swimming skills are so good, it might be related to the fact that you couldn't hold your pee since you were little. We need to study this matter properly and strive to understand the reason behind it as soon as possible." "Yes, I also think it's related to that," Shen Qinghan replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. Linziken was too casual about it, talking so plainly about her inability to hold her pee, which made her feel quite embarrassed. Though they grew up together and were usually very close, there were still gender differences, and some overly private topics could be awkward to discuss. In the time that followed, Linziken continuously tested Shen Qinghan's various underwater abilities. During the tests, he kept observing the changes in her body. Unfortunately, her body remained normal, with no special changes occurring. The only difference was that Shen Qinghan's underwater abilities had improved since the last time. This was strange because she had not done any swimming training in the meantime. How could her underwater abilities have improved? This did not make sense and warranted careful observation and study. Thinking about this, Linziken looked at Shen Qinghan and said, "Han Han, let's go explore the underwater world," he suggested. "Okay," Shen Qinghan nodded. Not long after they had spoken, the two dived into the water together and walked on the seabed nearly 10 meters deep. During this time, Linziken kept observing Shen Qinghan's physical condition and found that she felt a bit uncomfortable when she first entered the water but quickly adapted and was able to move freely in the underwater world at nearly 10 meters deep. Her swimming skills were too extraordinary, almost inhuman, resembling more a marine creature than a land animal. Maybe Su Meng was right, and Shen Qinghan was made of water. As Linziken pondered these thoughts, the previously content Shen Qinghan suddenly changed color, and in a state of panic, she vigorously shook his arm, signaling him that they needed to resurface. Without hesitating, he immediately surfaced with Shen Qinghan and then quickly swam to the shore. "Did you hear the voice from last time?" Linziken asked as soon as they got ashore. Shen Qinghan, looking a bit pale, said, "I heard that strange voice again, this time clearer and louder, like a woman whispering in my ear. It was really creepy. Could you understand what it was saying this time?" Linziken asked. Shen Qinghan shook her head, "I couldn't tell, it didn't seem like a common language of this world. It sounded like chanting, filled with an ancient and profound sense." "Chanting?" Linziken furrowed his brow then asked, "Can you replicate that sound for me to hear?" "No, I don't think the human vocal cords can produce that kind of sound," Shen Qinghan answered, shaking her head again, and then added, "Ziai Chen, let's go back. I don't want to stay here anymore. I feel very insecure." "Okay, we're going back," Linziken said, seeing she was not in a good state, and quickly took her away from the beach. On the bus, Shen Qinghan recalled the voice she had heard while in the sea, and couldn't help but feel scared. Turning to Lin Zikin with a pleading tone, she said, "Zi Chen, can I not go to the beach anymore? I don't want to train my swimming skills." "Okay, we won't come here anymore," Lin Zikin agreed without a second thought. Shen Qinghan had heard strange voices during her 2 trips to the sea, which unsettled him as well. He thought they should avoid the beach from now on. If they needed to train her swimming skills, they could use some clean, private pools. As for the eerie female voice Shen Qinghan heard in the sea, they would have to wait until they were stronger before attempting to delve deeper into this mystery and understand what was actually happening. Time flew by swiftly. Before anyone knew it, more than a month had passed. Shanghai High School, Class 1 of the first year. The mechanical modification class teacher, Cai Yuanfei, walked in with a stack of test papers and looked at everyone. "Just like that, we've arrived in October and school has been in session for over a month. During this time, we've learned quite a bit, and now it's time to see what you've been able to retain. There's a reward for this test. The first place will get 888 in cash, second place will get 666 in cash, and third place will get 333 in cash. It's not a lot of money, just a motivator, but I hope everyone takes it seriously and really tests what they've learned over the past month. Don't dismiss it as unimportant." After saying this, Cai Yuanfei handed the test papers to the students in the front row to pass back. "Wow, really? There's a cash prize just for a little class quiz." He Yu, who was sitting below, was very shocked by this. Li Chuxin said in confusion, "Don't they have this at high schools in Nangguan?" He Yu shook his head, "I've never heard of that." Li Chuxin explained to him, "At our Shanghai High School, the school allocates a certain amount of funds to the teachers every month to motivate students during regular evaluations." "Wow, that's awesome," He Yu exclaimed in surprise, then couldn't help but complain, "Nangguan City claims to have a strong education system, but the benefits given to students are not even on par with Shanghai City. So lame." Lin Zikin on the side also felt somewhat surprised. "There's a cash prize? And the first place is actually 888 yuan? That's a generous reward, almost enough to buy half a jin of ferocious great eagle meat. Everyone, quiet down and start working on the test as soon as you get it." Seeing that the students were all discussing the cash reward and causing a ruckus in the classroom, Cai Yuanfei immediately controlled the situation. Soon, the classroom quieted down, and everyone began concentrating on their test papers. The test was a bit difficult, with many tricky questions covering various knowledge points. Most students frowned as they worked through it. Lin Zikin took the test and felt it was quite easy, almost effortless. He seemed to know the answers with just one glance, not having to exert his mind at all. The only thing worth pondering was the very last part of the final problem. But even that just took an extra half-minute to think through. Securing a perfect score of 100 was a matter of having hands to write it down. That meant the first place prize of 888 yuan was practically in his hands already. Over an hour later, the test was over. Cai Yuanfei collected the papers to grade them back in the office, aiming to have them done before lunch break. As soon as he left, the classroom erupted in a chorus of moans the next moment. "Damn, that test was so hard. They even asked for the energy wavelength of a laser cannon. Why would I remember that, and what use is remembering it anyway?" Exactly, the test was way too difficult and obscure. That last problem-solving question was outrageous, asking about the relationship between a recoilless airstream device and atmospheric pressure, and they expected us to calculate the exact figures. With all those decimals, what's the point in calculating? Sigh, I was hoping to score 90, but now I'd be lucky to pass with 60. While everyone else was complaining about how hard the test was, Wang Shijia got up and walked over to Lu Gang, smiling as he asked, "That test was indeed tough, how do you think you did?" "Probably a 95, Lu Gang replied, then turned to Wang Shijia and asked, "What about you?" Wang Shijia smiled, "Same here, I just didn't know the last part of the last question, so I think I'll get around 95 too. Hearing these two estimated they scored 95, many students cursed them under their breath for their lack of humility. With such a tough paper, still scoring so high, did they leave any hope for the others? Meanwhile, Shen Qinghan was also telling Lin Zikin about her difficulties. Ziyi Chen, the test was really hard, I might fail. It's fine. It was tough for everyone, not just for you. As long as you're above the average score, there shouldn't be a problem, Lin Zikin consoled her gently. Shen Qinghan thought about it and felt it made sense. Her worried expression eased a lot, and she revealed a sweet smile, saying, "That's true. I've always done pretty well on written exams. I'm sure I'll be above average."